Hey everybody, welcome back to Race of History. Today we're going to do the Sabaton History over combat medics. This is the part 2 for the Ballad of Bull. We did part 1 2 days ago, I believe, and did the song 3 days ago. So we're going to do part 2 today. This is a little bit different than what they normally do. This is more of a kind of broad general look at the subject that they're covering. So I'm interested to see what direction they go with it. Let's get into it.
Bull Part 1, we talked about Leslie Bull Allen and his service as a medic during the Second World War.
And there's a lot of other heroes that didn't kill.
So here comes Ballad of Bull Part 2 about them.
I really can't get over how pretty the song is. It's a great, great song.
Sometimes war means killing. Sometimes war means saving lives. In the first episode about the Ballad of Bull, I talked about Leslie Bull Allen, who became a renowned war hero, although not for taking the lives of his enemies, but for saving those of his allies. Courage, selflessness, moral integrity, all traits we attribute to a hero. For field medics, though, this is just part of the job description. Here are 3 more stories of notable medics from the Second World War. Desmond Doss was born in 1919 in Lynchburg, Virginia, in the U.S.
Yeah, Desmond Doss is a famous one. His exploits, I guess, is, for lack of a better term, at Hacksaw Ridge. So that's a good one. I figured if they were going to do some from World War II, I figured Desmond Doss would be on there. He's one of the more well-known ones.
U.S. into a working-class family. They were very religious, and he was raised as a Seventh-day Adventist. Seventh-day Adventists are extremely strict when it comes to moral principles, particularly regarding the infallibility of the Scripture and the Ten Commandments. In December 1941, the Japanese rolled the dice for maximum sneak attack damage at Pearl Harbor, and Doss wanted to enlist in the forces that would fight back. Although bound to the commitment that forbade him to kill, he felt obligated to do his duty as a patriot. So he would become a soldier in war, but one without the ability to shoot someone or even touch a weapon. Desmond Doss joined the U.S. Army and was assigned to the 77th ID as a medic. But basic training was tough. Naturally, a man who refused to kill or even work on the Sabbath would have a hard time in the army, and his commanders tried to expel him several times. Many of his fellow soldiers scorned him, labeling him a coward and ridiculing his daily prayers, but he did not quit. In March 1944, he and his unit were sent to fight in the Pacific Theater, and during the fighting for Guam and Leyte, Doss was quick to prove himself. Without regard for his own safety, he was repeatedly spotted running into enemy fire, pulling the wounded from the field, or helping his comrades with bandages and plasma. He won 2 Bronze Stars for valor. In April 1945, as the war entered its final stages, American forces invaded the Japanese island of Okinawa. The fighting was ferocious, and the Japanese defenders offered bitter resistance, usually to the last man. Doss's regiment was to take a position at Urasoimura beyond a 100-meter jagged slope. But the climb was steep, and the men immediately came under heavy machine gun and mortar fire. As the attack was broken off, only a third of the regiment made it back down. The rest remained either dead, wounded, or pinned down at the top. Doss did not hesitate. Time and time again, he went over the top, into the sights of the Japanese gunners, only to come back a few moments later with a wounded soldier. The story goes that every time he went back up again, he muttered to himself that the Lord might allow him to save just one more. In the end,
I believe that quote is from him. I'm almost 100% sure that he was the one that gave the quote, "Just help me get one more." Or Lord help me get one more, or it was something like that. But I believe that's where the quote comes from.
And Doss saved more than 50 men from certain death at the top. Even after he himself was wounded in both legs, he still stayed with the wounded. As stretcher bearers came to relieve him, Doss directed them instead to more serious cases. After 5 hours of caring for the wounded, he was spotted by a Japanese sniper. Shot in the arm and with broken bones, he crawled back to the aid station on his own. He ultimately survived. He was awarded the Medal of Honor, the highest American medal for courage beyond the call of duty. This was not only the highest honor the U.S. could bestow on a soldier, but it was also awarded to a man who had never killed an enemy. Doss was the first conscientious objector to receive this honor.
Sometimes war is killed.
Yeah, his whole story is pretty incredible. I talked about this in the original video. I can't imagine running into a firefight with no intention of even picking up a weapon. That seems so crazy to me, and I don't think I would be able to do it. It's natural. It's natural to fight, I guess, if you're going to be there, because I feel like it's also natural to run. And so if you're going to be there and you're going to stay, I feel like every part of you would be screaming to defend yourself in some way.
And sometimes it's saving lives. It's the judgment of fate. It's nothing that man can dictate. Corporal Leslie Allen carried them from Tambu, saved his brothers in arms when out and followed through.
Franz Schmidt celebrated his 22nd birthday on the battlefields of Poland among the cries of the wounded. He had joined the German Wehrmacht back
This is not what I've heard of.
in 1937 as a field medic. Although the campaigns against Poland and France were concluded quickly, the German army still paid for victory with many thousands of casualties. Usually, medics like Schmidt's marched at the back of the company, but once the first bullets were fired and the wounded called for help, the medics rushed to the front. His determination to save his comrades, even under the most dangerous circumstances, won Schmidt's the Iron Cross Second Class. The war against the Soviet Union, however, would surpass anything he had seen before. Serving with the 95th Infantry Division, Schmitz was with the German advance towards the cities of Lvov and Rovno, which the Soviets, of course, tried to prevent. From day one of the invasion, the fighting was vicious. The Soviet defenders were entrenched here and using the terrain to their advantage. Schmitz and his medics constantly charged forward, ducking from cover to cover towards the wounded. Schmitz dragged men from the front lines into the safety of woods and cornfields. Hastily, he applied pressure bandages while calling orders to stretcher bearers. Often, he saw other young medics cut down right in front of him. But being this close to the fighting meant that Schmitz was not a stranger to close combat. With pistol and submachine gun in hand, he regularly fought off Soviet counterattacks.
And this is pretty standard, pretty common amongst combat medics. I'm trying to think of what the rules are for combat medics. I think the rule is that combat medics are not supposed to be shot at unless they basically pick up a gun and start going to work. And then they can be shot at, just like anybody else. But I think they're supposed to be avoided. And, they're supposed to wear an insignia and make themselves noticeable. But if they don't have a weapon and aren't, shooting at people, they're supposed to be avoided. Now, there are many stories of combat medics not only not being avoided, but actually being targeted. So it's, rules and war are kind of like an oxymoron, but that's supposed to be the way that it is. I'm pretty sure that's what the rules are.
To survive, he had to kill. But Schmitz was not only seen in the thick of fighting, he was seen dressing the wounds of the Soviet soldiers as well. It was his medic's way. He would go on to fight at the Dnieper and at the Cauldron of Kiev. There, after saving the lives of 200 men during the siege, He was awarded the Iron Cross First Class and even met the requirements for the Infantry Assault Badge. Unusual for a medic, but not for a man who once captured a T-34 tank alone while saving men caught in a crossfire. Schmidt would continue to fight on the Eastern Front, surviving the merciless winters and the fighting at Kursk and Yelnya in 1943, where his battalion barely escaped destruction. He himself was badly wounded and near death after another daring rescue mission, but miraculously survived. Still in hospital, he was awarded the Knight's Cross, the Wehrmacht's highest award for gallantry on the battlefield. He would return to the front and save the lives of hundreds of more men until he was wounded again in March 1945. Franz Schmidt survived the war in American captivity.
Sometimes war is saving, sometimes it's taking lives.
I want to learn more about that guy. That sounds like a really interesting story.
Thanks to one single man, a dozen more survives.
See, Natalia Maraseva was born in 1923 on a collective farm in Saratov Oblast in the Soviet Union. She was just beginning her adult life when the Great Patriotic War, World War II, arrived, and Maraseva was made to work in a cement plant. But her father had been conscripted to fight against the German invasion, and Maraseva was restless and did not want to remain at the home front. Instead, she repeatedly tried to enlist for frontline duty, but was repeatedly rejected. She could join the army, but she had to be a nurse. Maraseva agreed. After brief basic medical training, she became an official Red Army field nurse, and by the end of 1942, medics like her were needed everywhere. Assigned to the 38th Rifle Division, Maraseva was sent to Stalingrad, where the fighting for the possession of the right bank of the Volga was bitter. The riverbank was full of wounded soldiers, and Maraseva had her hands full in keeping even a fraction of them alive. On the battlefield, any sign of a chauvinistic attitude vanished nearly instantly. Female medics became the treasured guardian angels of the regiments, and no man lay a hand on them or even spoke disrespectfully. In February 1943, Maraseva was awarded the Medal for Merit in Battle for her actions.
That is very interesting. So, they sent all of the female nurses to Stalingrad. Did they not have male combat medics? Or if they did they just not have any to send? How exactly did that work? I have not looked into the medic roles of the World War II Soviets, and so I'm curious exactly how that works. If the female nurses were considered the combat medics, or if there were combat medics and they just weren't there, or how that worked. But that's kind of incredible, and that she got a medal for the time period for sure.
In the coming summer, she was in the thick of the Battle of Kursk, rescuing 38 wounded soldiers by dragging them under fire to the safety of the trenches. For her bravery there, she was awarded the Order of the Red Star. By the beginning of August 1943, Maraseva advanced with her regiment, which was now elevated to guard status, to cross the Donets River in southern Belgorod. However, the right bank of the river was heavily mined, and the Axis forces opposing them had a clear line of fire. Still, the guards were ordered to advance. Losses were heavy, but the Red Army forced a crossing and took the fight to their enemies. Maraseva was constantly in action, treating her wounded comrades all day long, personally carrying them to safety. But then the Axis launched a fierce counterattack, and as the Soviets were outflanked, chaos unfolded on the beachhead. Maraseva remained in her trench. She did not panic. She merely raised her pistol, left the safety of the trench, and charged towards the enemy, screaming at her comrades to join the attack. And the men began to turn and fight. The battle was fierce, but the Soviets ultimately prevailed and kept...
That is incredible. That is incredible.
...their beachhead. Maraseva worked all night to save the lives of the wounded. With little to no sleep, she was seen the next day heaving the wounded into the boats to transport them back over the river, when suddenly they came under fire once more. In the barrage of shells, she threw herself protectively over the wounded and was herself mortally wounded by shrapnel. She had saved the lives of more than 106 men during her service, and a year later was posthumously declared a hero of the Soviet Union. Those are just 3 short stories from the lives of 3 brave medics of the.
Which one is the most interesting of those 3 to all of you? I'm trying to think. I think mine might be the last one. Her story is crazy. Man, I don't know. What do y'all think?
Second World War. There is a duality in mankind, one that revolves equally around fighting against and caring for one's fellow man. Nothing highlights this more than war. Sometimes saving your own means killing the man on the other side. Sometimes it means saving the lives of others by putting yourself in mortal danger. No one understands this more clearly than the field medic, sworn to save lives one way or another.
There and back again, bullets all around. All of the men that he carried away, 12 men would now live to see one more day. His spear held at bay as he carried them away.
Now, in almost all of your songs, there is a lot of violence, of course, because they're about warfare and people die in wars. And it is focused often on the heroism and the ideology. But this is very different. This is kind of the opposite of that.
Yes, we've had actually a lot of requests from people to write songs that aren't about the heroes that necessarily were the fighting heroes, but also anything from medics and the people who work in hospitals, fire departments, police, and this kind of heroes as well. And obviously because of the movie Hacksaw Ridge that came out not so long ago, we received, I would say, a lot of emails to sing about Desmond Douglas, who is the hero of this story.
Yeah.
There is a difficulty writing an aggressive heavy metal song about a peaceful subject. That's why this song, The Ballad of Bull, turned out a little bit the way it is.
Yeah.
If you listen to it, it's not an aggressive metal song.
No, that's what makes it so different. The whole thing is different, from the subject to the sound of the song, the feel of everything. It's all different. But man, they just do that so well. I mean, seriously. This is one of my favorite songs that I've heard from him. It's so well done.
Song. It's more like a ballad anthem kind of song. And we find it difficult to just take any of our songs and then adapt it by having a peaceful topic.
That's very interesting. I'm trying to picture a song in my head and thinking, like, how would that be about Florence Nightingale or somebody like that who also saved lives, or Marie Curie during the First World War, who did so much for behind the lines and stuff. Think of like, to the gates of okay. No, you're right. It's tricky. Can you see doing like an entire album? Would that be something you guys might ever do about heroes that did not kill, heroes during warfare that did not kill?
An entire album about it would be so difficult. We are already struggling about finding individual 1 or 2 songs that potentially could be about this topic. To have an entire album would be so difficult, and I'm not also sure that a lot of our fans, you guys, would enjoy that, because we need to take down a lot of what is Sabaton, which is a lot of bombastic.
Yeah, that's what they talked about on the last one, that it was kind of hit and miss on who liked it and who didn't, as far as the Sabaton fans were concerned. Like I said, I followed the group of people that really liked it, and they said they hadn't performed it live, but I feel like it would be such a great one to do live.
Bombastic fighting spirit in the songs, and adjust that to something that is more laid back. And I'm not sure from actually all the people that are requesting this, I'm not sure you know what you're asking for. Yeah. Because if you get this...
See, but I feel A Lifetime of War, to me, maybe my favorite song from Sabaton altogether. But I feel like it's a little bit like this. It's a little bit more emotional and darker, almost like the sound. Um, I feel like it's a little bit more in this lane than, say, you know, Panzerkampf or something like that. Um, I just feel like they do this really well. Now, with the subject matter, I'm sure it would be hard to do. I'm sure all of their albums are hard to do. Um, but I feel like they're able to do this really really well. And like I said, I like both of those songs. This one and the A Lifetime of War one, specifically the Swedish version of that song. And I feel like it's a little bit in this lane too. So I feel like they might be short selling themselves a little bit, but I get that they would be nervous that not everybody would like it.
It's
You might say
maybe
this sounds a little weak for Sabaton.
Yeah.
Having said that, just doing this song though, I think is a great service, because when you think of wars, you don't think of people like Bull. You don't think of a guy literally rushing in with no weapon. This is not a hero saving his platoon, right? This is a guy going in and saving a bunch of people under fire and stuff, and that is such a level of heroism that most of us cannot even conceive that we would be able to do ourselves. So it is important to have something like this in your canon of songs.
And I think it connects as well to the variety of Sabaton. I mean, we have songs that are very aggressive. Some are less aggressive. We borrow from thrash metal, from death metal, from power metal. We borrow from all kinds of genres within the rock scene. And it's the same that we also can do all kinds of angles on the lyrical topics.
Right.
So thanks to the variety in our music, we can also vary the lyrics to fit to it. And that's why we can get sometimes these a little bit more peaceful stories in there.
And I really enjoyed being able to do a second part about this, to tell some more of those stories, that do get overlooked occasionally beyond, because you have so many actual fighting heroes. So this is great. Okay, well, Parrot, thank you very much for today. And that was Ballad of Bull Part 2. But we'll see you next time
here on the Sabaton History channel.
All right, so that was the Ballad of Bull Part 2, the Combat Medics from Sabaton History. That was another great episode. I love all of these. Sabaton's been such a great find for me. Before starting the channel, I had no idea who they were, what they did. I didn't even know there was a group that did stuff like this. They've just been such a great find. I've got some other stuff I'm working on. Like I said in the last couple of videos, I'm working on switching up some things for the channel, so some things might look different. The background behind me looks different today. So bear with me a little bit. But as always, like, comment, subscribe. Help me keep building the channel over here. I will put the link to the Discord in the description box down below. And I'll see you all next time.